Hello, everybody. Welcome to Masterpiece Theater. Fourth chapter, do you remember? Can I tell? Yes, Daniel. Say hello first. Don't be rude. Hi, boys and girls. Hi, Sister Elizabeth. Ugga mugga. Okay, Daniel, you want to tell the name of the chapter? The number of the chapter today? Yeah. Chapter 5, just like our classroom. Yeah. Chapter 5. And would you like to tell what happened? It's a little scary for me. Well, you don't have to if you don't want. You want me to do it? Yeah. Okay, get ready. So I'll put you here. Now remember, if you get too frightened, either you can have a friend with you or you can go and do something else, okay? It's all right. So we'll put you here. You too. If you want to leave, you can leave. Chapter 5. Look, I got a new bookmark. Look. I thought you would like it because the little one is blowing bubbles and there's a little ladybug there. One of my sisters was getting rid of it. She didn't want it anymore, so I said, we could use it. Okay, so we'll put it here. Chapter 5, the back side of this door. Now, if you remember what happened, Edmund got into Narnia. Remember, he didn't believe Lucy and he was being really mean to her. And he told everybody, don't, she's only a baby. She's making up stories. But he got into Narnia, right? And then he saw the lamppost. But he did not see the fawn, not yet. But he did get into the land of Narnia through the wardrobe, right? Now, he met someone, if you can remember, in the land of Narnia that we really don't want to meet. The White Witch, right? And she couldn't believe he was there. And she wants him to bring his brother and sisters to come back into Narnia because she wants to be the queen. She doesn't want anybody else in Narnia. So she was nice to Edmund at first. And she said, come and sit here with me in the sleigh. Oh, you must be cold and hungry. Would you like something? Do you remember what she gave him? She gave him this. Candy. Turkish delight. He gobbled it up and he wanted more. And she said, no more, until you come back and bring your brothers and sisters to my castle between the two hills called Paravel. And that's where we left off. So let's find out what happened. Because the game of hide and seek was still going on, it took Edmund and Lucy some time to find the others. But when at last they were all together, which happened in the long room where the suit of armor was, Lucy burst out, oh, Peter, Susan, it's true. Edmund has seen it too. Edmund and I both got in. We met each other there in the wood. Oh, go on, Edmund, tell them all about it. There they are with the professor. Let's see what Edmund does now. What's it all about, Ed? Said Peter. And now we come to one of the nastiest things in the story. I'm almost afraid to tell you. Up until that moment, Edmund had been feeling sick and sulky and annoyed with Lucy for being right. And he didn't make up his mind what to do. Should he tell the truth or not? When Peter suddenly asked him the question, he decided all at once to do the meanest, spiteful thing he could think of. He let Lucy down. Tell us, Ed, said Susan. And Edmund just gave a look. And he said, oh, yes. Lucy and I have been playing. We've been pretending in the neighborhood of make-believe, pretending about a story of a country in the wardrobe. That it was true, but it was just for fun, of course. And it's really not true. Poor Lucy. She gave Edmund a look, and she rushed out of the room. How could Edmund say that when it wasn't true? Edmund, who was becoming nastier every minute, thought that, Now everyone will think I'm great, and she's just the baby. He went on to say, look, there she goes again. What's the matter with her? That's the worst with little babies like that. They run away and they cry all the time. Oh, look here, said Peter, turning on him. You be quiet now. You have been perfectly nasty to Luke ever since she has started this nonsense about the wardrobe. And now you go playing games with her about it, and then you say you don't believe her, and it makes her cry. Oh, but of course it's nonsense, said Edmund. Of course it's all nonsense, said Peter. Well, Peter didn't believe it either, but he was not going to be mean to his sister Lucy. That's just the point. Lucy was perfectly all right when she left home, but coming here has upset her. And you know what? What good is it for you to keep teasing her like that? It's not nice, Peter said to Edmund. Well, I thought, said Edmund, but he couldn't think of anything to say. You didn't think at all, said Peter. You've always liked being beastly to someone who's smaller. He was a bully because his sister was younger than he was. You even did it in school and everybody saw it. Oh, do stop it, said Susan. It won't make anything better for you two to have an argument. Come on, let's go and find Lucy. It was not surprising that when they found Lucy a good deal later, everyone could see that she had been crying. Nothing they could say could make the difference. She stuck to her story and she said, I don't care what you think. And I don't care what you say. You can tell the professor, or you can write to Mother, or you can do anything you want. But I know that I have met a fawn, and I wish I'd stayed there because you were all being so mean to me. It was a very unpleasant evening. Lucy was miserable, and Edmund was beginning to feel that his plan for teasing her was not going to work. The two older ones were really beginning to think that maybe Lucy was dreaming. And they stood in the passageway and they talked in whispers while Lucy was in bed. The result was that the next morning they decided they had a plan. They decided to go and tell the professor. He'll write to Father, and maybe Father will know what we can do to help Lucy because she's so upset. That's what we have to do. So they went up and they knocked on the study door, and the professor said, come in. And he got up from his chair and he found chairs for the others because the professor was always happy to help. Then he sat listening to them with the tips of his fingers pressed together. He was listening very carefully. He didn't interrupt them at all. And when they had finished their whole story, then he cleared his throat and he said something that the children had not expected. How do you know, he asked, that your sister's story isn't true? Oh, but Susan said, and then she stopped. Everyone could see from the old man's face that he was perfectly serious. But Edmund said they were only pretending. That's the point, said the professor, which certainly deserves consideration, very careful consideration. For instance, if you will excuse me for asking the question, who is more reliable? I mean, who is more truthful? Well, that's the funny thing about it, sir, said Peter. Up until now, I would have said Lucy every time. And what do you think, my dear, said the professor to Susan. Well, said Susan, in general, I would say the same as Peter. But this couldn't be true. How could it be true all about the woods in the wardrobe and a fawn? That is more than I know, said the professor. But the charge of lying against someone who has always been truthful is a very serious thing. Oh my, what were they going to do? Think about it, said the professor. Logic, said the professor to himself. Why don't they teach logic in the school? Either your sister is telling lies, or she is sick, or she is telling the truth. You know, she doesn't tell lies, and it's obvious that she is not sick. For that moment, they thought, she must be telling the truth. Susan looked at him very hard and was quite sure that he was not making fun of them. Oh, but Peter said, how can it be true? Oh, why do you say that? Said the professor. Well, for one thing, said Peter, if it was real, why doesn't everybody find the country every time they go into the wardrobe? I mean, there was nothing there when we looked. Even Lucy didn't pretend when we were in there. Nobody could get into Narnia when we were all there. What's that got to do with it? Said the professor. Well, sir, if things are real, they should be there all the time. Are they? Said the professor. And Peter didn't know what to say. But there was no time, said Susan. Lucy's had time to go into the wardrobe. She came running out the very next moment with this story, and she said that she had been away for hours. That is the very thing that makes her story likely to be true, said the professor. If there really is a door in this house that leads to another world, and I should warn you that this is a very strange house, and even I know little about it. If there is another world, I should not be at all surprised. Think about that, they said. But do you really mean it, sir, said Peter, that there could be worlds all over this place, like around the corner or somewhere like that? Nothing is more probable, said the professor, taking off his spectacles, those are his glasses, and beginning to polish them while he muttered to himself, I wonder. But what are we to do, said Susan. She felt the conversation was beginning to get off the point. Well, my dear young lady, said the professor, suddenly looking up at them, there is one plan which no one has even suggested. What is that? Said Susan. We might all try minding our own business, he said. And that was the end of their conversation. After this, things were a good deal better for Lucy. Peter even saw to it that Edmund stopped teasing her, and neither one of them felt inclined to talk about the wardrobe at all. This house of the professor's, which he knew very little about because it was so big and was so old, famous people from all over England used to ask permission to come and see the house. It was the sort of house that was described in guidebooks or in history books. And people wanted to find out about it. And they would ask permission from the professor. And the professor always gave them permission. And Mrs. Macready, the housekeeper, always showed them around, telling them about the pictures and the suit of armor and the rare books in the library. Mrs. Macready, however, was not fond of children. She did not like to be interrupted when she was talking to the adults, the visitors. She had said to Susan and Peter from almost the first day they got there, and please remember to keep out of the way whenever I am bringing people all over this house. Do not get in my way. Just as if any of us would want to waste our time with those adults, said Edmund. And the others really kind of thought the same. A few mornings later, Peter and Edmund were looking at the suit of armor and wondering if maybe they could take it apart, or maybe they could get into it, when the two girls rushed into the room and said, "Look out, here comes Macready, and she's got a whole lot of people with her." "Oh, we better get going," said Peter. And all four of them made off through the door at the far end of the room. But when they had gone to the green room, they stopped. Because guess what? They thought Mrs. Macready was coming this way, and Mrs. Macready was coming that way. Oh no, what are we to do? Oh, come on, let's go into the wardrobe room until they leave. No one will follow us in there. But the moment they were inside, they heard in the passages, there's the hallways. And then they closed the door, remembering not to close it all the way, right? They were fumbling and they felt the coats. "Quick," said Peter, quick. Shh, be very quiet. And into the wardrobe they went. Peter did not close the door all the way, because that would never be a good thing to do. Open up your memory bank. Chapter 6, Into the Forest. Chapter 6, Into the Forest. Chapter 6, Into the Forest. Do you think that they are going to go into the land of Narnia? Let's ask Daniel. What do you think, Daniel? I think so. Should I be afraid? I don't know, Daniel. You'll have to wait and see. But you have to remember, it's in the neighborhood of make-believe. Yeah, right. Okay. Ugga mugga, Sister Pat. Ugga mugga, everybody. See you next time. Ciao for now. Be good. Wash your hands. Wear your mask. Bye-bye. Thank you.